The recycled air of the cabin is a stale soup of jet fuel, cheap perfume, and the collective anxiety of 300 strangers hurtling through the sky in a metal tube. My own anxiety is a sharp, metallic taste at the back of my throat. The boarding pass, flimsy and creased in my clammy hand, feels like a death sentence and a lottery ticket all at once. Seat 14B. A middle seat in economy, a fitting metaphor for my entire life, squeezed, uncomfortable, and with no decent view. But this flight, this interview, is my only way out of the crushing debt my mother's illness left behind. So I breathe in the stale air, and I tell myself it's the smell of a new beginning. I shuffle down the narrow aisle, my worn carry-on bumping against armrests. My head throbs from the double shift I just finished, my scrubs still folded at the top of my bag, a faint scent of antiseptic clinging to them. My vision blurs for a second, a dizzying wave of exhaustion washing over me. I stumble, catching myself on a plush leather seat. It's softer than my mattress at home. The sign above reads Row 2 First Class. A world away from Row 14. For a wild, delirious moment, I imagine just sitting down here, sinking into the buttery leather, accepting the pre-flight champagne, and pretending I belong. It's a stupid, dangerous fantasy, born of sleep deprivation and desperation. I push onward, but the numbers on the overhead bin seem to swim. 10, 11, 12. My bag feels heavier with each step. My legs ache. My brain is cotton. When I finally see the number 2 again, this time on a seat, my exhausted mind short-circuits. It must be a weird cabin layout. I must have circled back. This must be it. Seat 2A. Window. Not 14B, but close enough for my foggy brain to accept. I collapse into the seat without a second thought, the supple material sighing as it takes my weight. The sheer space is a luxury I can feel in my bones. My knees aren't jammed against the seat in front of me. My elbows have room to breathe. I lean my head against the cool pane of the window, the thrum of the engines a soothing vibration, and my eyes drift shut. Just for a second. A voice, smooth and practiced, cuts through my daze. Ma'am? I'm sorry, ma'am. I think you might be in the wrong seat. I blink my eyes open. A flight attendant with a plastic smile and perfectly coiffed hair is leaning over me. Panic, cold and sharp, lances through me. My cheeks flame with heat. I fumble for my boarding pass, the crumpled paper confirming my humiliating mistake. 14B, of course. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't sleep. I'm so sorry. I start to gather my bag, my movements clumsy with embarrassment, preparing to make the walk of shame back to steerage. Don't move, the voice is not the flight attendant's. It's low, a gravelly baritone that seems to vibrate in the very air around me. It comes from the aisle. I freeze, my hand halfway to my bag. I look up, and the world narrows to the man standing there. He is tall, broad in a way that seems to suck all the space from the aisle, dressed in a black suit so exquisitely tailored it probably costs more than my car. His face is all harsh angles and shadows, but it's his eyes that hold me captive. They are the color of whiskey, dark and intense, and they are fixed on me with an unnerving focus. He doesn't look angry. He looks appraising, like a predator that has just stumbled upon a very interesting, very out-of-place little bird. He gives the flight attendant a look so brief and dismissive it's a wonder she doesn't evaporate on the spot. There is no problem here, it's not a suggestion. It's a command. He gestures to the empty seat beside me, the one that should have been his. I will take this one, the flight attendant's plastic smile falters. She opens her mouth, probably to explain that this is not how seating assignments work, but a single, almost imperceptible shift in his gaze silences her. She just nods, her throat working, and retreats down the aisle without another word. The man slides into the seat next to me. The scent of expensive cologne, something with notes of leather and spice, fills the space, overwhelming the stale cabin air. He is so close I can feel the heat radiating from him. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. I am acutely aware of everything. The fine wool of his suit, the glint of a platinum watch on his wrist, the way his large hand rests on the armrest, mere inches from my own. He doesn't speak. He just pulls a slim, dark phone from his pocket and begins to type with silent, efficient thumbs. The plane finishes boarding, the doors close, the safety demonstration begins and ends, and I sit there, rigid, trapped by a stranger's inexplicable command. Trapped in a gilded cage at 30,000 feet. The flight is the longest 3 hours of my life. I don't dare move, I barely dare to breathe. When the drink cart comes, he orders a whiskey, neat, and a water for me, without ever looking up from his phone or asking what I want. The glass is placed on my tray table by a trembling flight attendant. I stare at the condensation beating on its side, my throat painfully dry, but I can't bring myself to drink it. He is a vortex of silent, intimidating power, and I am caught in his orbit. At one point, our arms brush, a fleeting contact of his suit sleeve against my bare skin. A jolt, hot and electric, shoots up my arm. He finally looks at me then, his whiskey-colored eyes meeting mine for a fraction of a second. There's no warmth in them, only a cool, calculating intelligence that makes me feel completely transparent. Then he looks away, back to his screen, and the moment is gone. I spend the rest of the flight staring out the window at the clouds, trying to make sense of the absurdity, the sheer terror of my situation. As the plane begins its descent, a subtle tension enters his stillness. He puts his phone away and turns his full attention to the window, his jaw tight. He isn't looking at the view, he's scanning the tarmac, the airport buildings, the ground crew moving below. It's the focused vigilance of a hunter, and a fresh wave of fear washes over me. This man is not just wealthy. He is dangerous. The moment the plane docks at the gate and the seatbelt sign pings off, I grab my bag, my only thought to escape, to melt into the anonymity of the terminal and forget this ever happened. I stand to leave, my legs unsteady. His hand closes around my wrist. His grip isn't painful, but it is absolute. Unbreakable. You are not going anywhere, my blood turns to ice. My name is Nia, I whisper, the words catching in my throat. I'm a nurse. I have a job interview. Please let me go, he doesn't release me. He simply looks down at his grip on my wrist, then back up at my face. I know your name, Nurse Nia. I know about the interview at St. Jude's General. I know about the $67,000 in medical debt you carry. And I know you will be coming with me. The confidence in his voice is absolute, leaving no room for argument. A man in a simple black suit, with a small earpiece, is suddenly standing at the front of the first-class cabin, holding back the other passengers. My escape route is gone. My future, which seemed so fragile and yet so clearly defined just hours ago, has just been completely and irrevocably rewritten. He stands, his hand still firmly on my wrist, and pulls me gently but inexorably into the aisle. He doesn't look back. I am swept along in his wake, out of the plane, through the jet bridge, and into a reality I never knew existed. The airport terminal is a blur of moving faces and echoing announcements, but all I can focus on is the warmth of his hand, a brand against my skin. We bypass the main concourse, led by the silent man with the earpiece, through an unmarked door and into a sterile service corridor. The sounds of the airport fade, replaced by the hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic click of our shoes on the polished concrete floor. My mind is screaming questions, but my mouth is dry, my voice stolen by fear. We emerge into a private parking garage, the air thick with the smell of concrete and exhaust. A gleaming black sedan, long and low like a panther, is waiting, its engine purring softly. The silent man opens the rear door. My captor, I don't even know his name, guides me inside with a firm pressure on my lower back. The door closes with a heavy, final-sounding thud, encasing us in a cocoon of black leather and silence. The windows are tinted so dark I can't see out. We pull away smoothly, and I have no idea where we are going. He finally releases my wrist, leaving a faint pink mark on my skin. He settles back against the seat, his imposing frame seeming to shrink the spacious interior. Alistair needs a nurse, he says, his voice a low rumble. My associate. There was an incident. You will attend to him. I can't, I say, my voice trembling but firm. I am a nurse, not a criminal's private medic. I have a license to protect. I can't work in an unapproved setting. He turns his head slowly, his whiskey eyes pinning me in place. You can. And you will. Your compensation will be the complete erasure of your debt. In cash. Tonight, my breath catches. $67,000. A mountain of weight that has been crushing me for years, gone. Just like that. It's an impossible offer, a devil's bargain. But the image of my mother in that hospital bed, the memory of the bills piling up, flashes through my mind. The desperation that put me in that first-class seat in the first place is still there, a raw, open wound. He sees the conflict in my eyes, the flicker of temptation. A corner of his mouth quirks up in a shadow of a smile. It is not a reassuring sight. I thought so, he murmurs. The drive is long and silent. We leave the city behind, the ride so smooth I feel as if we are floating. Eventually, the car turns onto a private road, and we pass through a set of towering iron gates. We drive for another 5 minutes through a dense forest before a house comes into view. House is the wrong word. It is a fortress of glass and dark stone, built into the side of a hill, overlooking a vast, dark lake. It is beautiful and terrifying, a monument to wealth and isolation. This is the Gilded Cage. Inside, the opulence is understated but overwhelming. Polished marble floors, soaring ceilings, art on the walls that I vaguely recognize from textbooks. It is silent, save for the quiet hum of a hidden ventilation system. The man who brought me here, who I now know only as Alistair's employer, leads me up a floating staircase to a large bedroom suite. An older man is lying in the king-sized bed, his face pale and etched with pain. His left leg is heavily bandaged, a dark red stain seeping through the white gauze. This must be Alistair. His eyes, though clouded with pain, are kind. This is Nia, the man says. His name, I learn from Alistair's weak greeting, is Julian. She will take care of you. A state-of-the-art medical bag is waiting on a table. I open it to find it fully stocked with everything I could possibly need, far better equipment than we have in the ER. My professionalism, a reflex honed over years of chaos and crisis, takes over. I wash my hands, pull on a pair of gloves, and approach the bed. The fear recedes, replaced by the familiar calm of clinical focus. Hello, Alistair. My name is Nia. I'm a registered nurse. I'm going to take a look at that leg as I work, cutting away the ruined bandage to assess the bullet wound beneath. I am aware of Julian watching my every move. He stands by the vast window, a dark silhouette against the dying light, his presence a heavy weight in the room. He doesn't interfere, doesn't speak, just watches with that same unnerving, appraising intensity from the plane. For the next few hours, there is only the patient, the injury, and the quiet, dangerous man in the shadows. The days that follow fall into a strange, surreal rhythm. I care for Alistair, whose wound is clean but deep, requiring constant monitoring and dressing changes. He is a gentle patient, grateful and surprisingly talkative when his pain medication allows. It is from him that I begin to piece together the world I have fallen into. Julian Thorne, he tells me, is a man who deals in commodities that are not traded on any stock exchange: information, security, loyalty. He inherited an empire from his father, but has reshaped it with a ruthless efficiency that has made him powerful and feared. The incident that injured Alistair was a message from a rival, a man named Marcus Valerius, who wants a piece of that empire. Julian, he wasn't always like this, Alistair says one afternoon, his voice raspy. His wife and daughter, there was a car bomb. Meant for him. He was late to the car. They were not. The words hang in the quiet room, heavy and cold. Suddenly, the hardness in Julian's eyes, his emotional distance, his obsessive need for control, it all coalesces into a tragic, horrifying kind of sense. He is a man hollowed out by grief, who has filled the void with power and violence. He treats me with a detached courtesy, ensuring I have everything I need: food, comfortable quarters, new clothes that appear in my closet as if by magic. But he is always there, a constant, watchful presence. Sometimes I will look up from changing Alistair's dressing to find him in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Our conversations are brief and functional, yet beneath the surface, a current of something else flows, a tense, unspoken awareness. One evening, he finds me on the terrace overlooking the Black Lake. I am wrapped in a cashmere throw I found on a chair, watching the stars emerge in the clear, dark sky. It's the first moment of peace I've had since I boarded that plane. He stands beside me, not speaking for a long time. The silence is comfortable, not strained. "You are good at what you do," he says finally, his voice a low murmur in the dark. "You are calm in a crisis." I look at him, at his profile outlined by the faint moonlight. "It's my job. To fix what's broken." He turns to face me, his gaze so intense it feels like a physical touch. Some things can't be fixed. The mention of his family hangs unspoken between us. He knows that I know. Alistair told me he would. He steps closer, lifting a hand to brush a stray curl from my face. His fingers are calloused, yet his touch is surprisingly gentle. My breath hitches. "You should not have been on that plane, Nia," he says softly. "You should not be here." The words are a warning, but they sound almost like a regret. Before I can respond, he turns and walks back into the house, leaving me alone with the silent stars and the ghost of his touch on my skin. That night, my fear begins to curdle into something else, something far more complicated and dangerous. A flicker of understanding, a spark of connection to the broken man behind the monstrous reputation. A week into my gilded captivity, Julian summons me to his study. The room is lined with dark wooden books, a massive desk dominating the space. He doesn't ask me to sit. He gets straight to the point, his voice clipped and devoid of emotion. "I have looked into you," he says, turning a file on his desk to face me. My file. It contains my entire life, my nursing school transcripts, my credit report, my mother's death certificate, a photo of my rundown apartment building. A profound sense of violation washes over me, cold and sickening. "You know everything," I whisper, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. "I know you graduated top of your class despite working 2 jobs. I know you paid for your mother's experimental treatment with a loan you knew you could never repay. I know you have no 1 inch." He looks up from the file, his whiskey eyes meeting mine. "You are resilient. And you are alone. It makes you a liability. And an asset I don't understand." He closes the file. "Valerius believes you are my lover. My new weakness. He watched us on the plane. He had someone at the airport. He thinks taking you is the way to get to me." The room seems to tilt. I am not just a caregiver. I am a pawn. A target. My accidental stumbling into his world has painted a bullseye on my back. "What do you want from me?" I ask, my voice steadier now, hardened by the stark reality of my situation. "I want you to make a phone call," he says. "Valerius has a sister. She is critically ill, needs a rare blood type for a transfusion. A blood type you happen to share. We have arranged for the hospital to call you, a freelance nurse, for an emergency transport. You will agree. You will go to the hospital. You will be the bait to draw him into the open, on my terms." It is a cold, calculated plan, using my skills, my body, my very blood type as a weapon. My old life, the one with interviews and middle seats, is not just gone. It feels like it belonged to another person. I look at this powerful, broken man, and I see the trap closing around both of us. There is no going back. There is only through. "Okay," I say, the single word sealing my fate. "I'll do it." The confrontation is a symphony of controlled chaos, heard but not seen. I am in the hospital's private ambulance bay, waiting for a patient who will never arrive. Julian's men, disguised as hospital security and paramedics, are ghosts in the periphery. I can feel the tension coiling in the night air. Then, a series of muffled sounds from the parking garage next door, shouts, a grunt of pain, the distinct, sharp crack of silenced gunfire. Then silence. A few minutes later, the black sedan screeches into the bay. The back door opens and Alistair, leaning heavily on a cane but on his feet, helps a stumbling Julian out of the car. Julian is clutching his side, his pristine white shirt stained with a rapidly spreading circle of crimson. They get him inside, back to the fortress on the lake, bypassing any official medical system. I am no longer just a nurse for the associate. I am the only thing standing between the master of this violent world and a potentially fatal injury. I cut away his shirt. The bullet went clean through, high on his side, missing any major organs. A miracle of millimeters. As I work to clean and stitch the wound, my hands steady despite the adrenaline singing in my veins, he is conscious, his eyes never leaving my face. The pain is etched on his features, but he doesn't make a sound. In this moment, the power dynamic is completely reversed. He is vulnerable, wounded, and utterly dependent on my care. I am the one in control. His skin is hot beneath my fingers. I feel the hard muscle of his abdomen clench as I pull a stitch tight. "You're safe now," I murmur, the words both a clinical reassurance and something more personal. His hand comes up, covering mine where it rests on his uninjured side. His grip is weak, but his intent is clear. "Only when you are," he rasps, his voice thick with pain and something else I dare not name. In the quiet days of his recovery, the last of my fear melts away, replaced by a profound and unsettling intimacy. I change his bandages, help him walk the long hallways of his silent house, and sit with him on the terrace as his strength returns. We talk. Not about his business or my debt, but about small things. My childhood, his love for a particular type of rare orchid he grows in a private conservatory. He shows me a picture of his daughter, a smiling girl with his whiskey-colored eyes. He speaks of her with a deep, aching tenderness that cracks his hardened exterior wide open. I see the man he was, the man he could have been, and the man he is, all at once. And I find myself falling for all of them. When he is fully healed, the offer comes. We are on the terrace, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the stone. "It is done," he says, his voice back to its usual commanding tone. "Valerius is no longer a problem. You are free to go." He slides a bank card across the small table between us. "Your debt is paid. There is enough in that account for you to live comfortably. To start over, anywhere you want. My driver will take you to the airport whenever you are ready." He says it all without looking at me, his gaze fixed on the horizon. My heart plummets. This is it. The end of the story. I can go back to my life. I stare at the card. It represents safety, security, a return to normalcy. Everything I thought I wanted. I picture my old apartment, the grueling double shifts, the constant, gnawing anxiety about money. The loneliness. It feels gray and lifeless compared to the terrifying, vibrant, color-saturated world I have been living in. A world of danger and luxury, of pain and unexpected tenderness. A world with him. I weigh the two lives in my mind. The safe, empty one I came from, and the dangerous, full one he offers. There is no real choice. Not anymore. I push the card back across the table. I don't want it. For the first time, he looks at me, and his carefully constructed mask of indifference shatters. I see surprise, confusion, and a raw, hopeful vulnerability in his eyes. "My place is here now," I say, my voice clear and steady. The words feel truer than anything I have ever said. A slow smile spreads across his face, a genuine, breathtaking smile that transforms his harsh features. He reaches across the table and takes my hand, his grip strong and sure. It doesn't feel like a capture anymore. It feels like an anchor. I never did make it to that job interview, and my old carry-on bag remains unpacked in the corner of my new, far too large bedroom. But as I look at the man holding my hand, a man who deals in violence and secrets, I feel, for the first time in my entire life, like I have finally come home.